So earlier today, we got to go out to the good old movie theater and see some
Yeah,
horror.
we
It's
did.
been a little while.
It has been.
It's been a little
It's
while.
been a little while for
I don't know
sure.
what the last one we saw was, but I feel like it's been like a month.
Uh,
Maybe not that long, but man, it feels like it's been a while.
it feels quite a while.
So, stop motion. This is a directorial debut. We actually watched a few of those today. Directorial debuts. And this one is about a woman who is a stop motion animation animator.
Animation animator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Okay. A synopsis for this. I always try, and we actually do get a good amount of credit for this in the comments. Is like that I don't give anything away in our reviews,
Yeah, we try.
even with synopses. And that for me, I just want to like tantalize them taste buds without giving anything really away. But she decides that it is time for her to make her own film. And in doing so, she's led down a dark path for her art.
Yeah. There you go.
What do you think?
That's good.
That's good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so the main actress in this, I don't know how to say her name, honestly, I'm sorry. She is the main actress from Jennifer Kent's second film after The Babadook called Nightingale. And I thought she was phenomenal in that. And I was extremely excited to see her here. And we actually both agreed while we were watching it that she actually looked a decent amount like Lauren Lavera from Terrifier 2.
She does.
In certain,
in this, at least.
certain angles and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's once again excellent. That's no surprise. And I'm curious, what did you think first?
I loved this movie. I thought it was really cool. I loved a lot of different aspects of it. Definitely the performance, I think, is really fantastic. I love the stop motion that is in this. I think it looks super creepy and super cool. And there's a lot of different like things that we see that were they're scary. They looked really scary. And I love like the overall plot and like the messages and themes as well. I thought that those were very fitting, and I think that the symbolism ties in well to like what those themes are. I'm trying to say that like vaguely.
The stop motion lends itself very well to horror in general. And the idea to make a film centered around that from a director who has experience working within stop motion. Obviously, this is like a passion project of his because they did stop motion stuff that looks like the stop motion in this, and to bring it to life. And I'm sure that it's very relevant to their own like artistic experience with it. There's some really great use of stop motion in here. I would have liked to have seen it incorporated a little more, just only because I was loving it so much. So that's not a knock. That's just something of like you're getting so much of a good thing. You're like, oh, I want more of that thing. But I think it was I disappointed? No. But when you're getting something you like so much, it's like, oh, this is really creepy. And another thing that she didn't mention here that is used very well is sound design.
Oh yes, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up because it's like
there's something related to the stop motion that's used kind of outside of the stop motion to drive home the point of something, of the symbolisms of the metaphors that are taking place here. And this is a fairly deep film, and has a lot to say. And that's not going to be for everybody, right? Like a lot of people like to go to these movies for like a throwaway, fun, brainless, mindless time, right? Yeah. A lot of people think horror is meant to be like mindless, and they even kind of acknowledge that in the way that they talk about how films don't do certain things because they're supposed to be dumb. Like,
Mm.
oh, the characters are supposed to be idiots. The story is poorly written because it's horror. No, that's not how horror is anymore, for sure. Not in 2024, right? Like the 2020s, the 2010s, we definitely went for a much more highbrow horror
Yeah,
as far
absolutely.
as the writing goes. And I'm not saying this is like been invented by this
No,
era,
there's plenty of
right? There was
other
plenty of that shit in the
deep horror
70s.
movies.
Did
Sure.
a ton of it.
I
It's
think
just we got a
every
little more
every era.
schlocky in the 80s,
Yeah.
and then the 90s became more like um, glitz and glamour and like pretty people
Yeah.
and more slick. And then the 2000s, early 2000s were a lot of like really like a lot of remakes that were more slick, but like they started to get a little more gruesome. And then in the later 2000s and early 2010s, that's when we started to really get into like the more heady stuff.
I think every era though
Of
has
course,
has its
but
like
this one has
standouts.
the most.
It does. I agree.
The
I agree.
2010s and beyond
Yeah.
has the most like
Serious
highbrow
highbrow horror.
horror
Yeah.
for sure. And this is that kind of horror that's like that A24
Yeah, it would
style
fit
of
very
horror,
well with A24.
and that's just not for a lot of
It's
people.
not.
And having seen this in theaters with other people, I can once again definitely guarantee you this isn't for half the audience that goes and sees it. They're going to walk
Mm.
out of this like, what the fuck was that? What did that all mean? That being
But this is
said, I
like
do feel like this one is a little more straightforward
it
than something
is
like, some other film that people walk out of and they're just like, I have no idea
like
what the
men.
hell that was. Sure, Men would be a good example.
Because
It's
this
not that level.
it's not so surreal that like you have no idea what's going on. Like you said, it has a little bit more of a straightforwardness to it, but there's enough of a surrealism element that you like it, you can talk about it and like try and understand like, oh, what did that mean, or like I think it means this, and like that's
Absolutely.
the fun in these type of horror movies or any type of movies like this, where it's like, got some ambiguity to it, got a bit of that like, you are projecting some type of meaning onto the film, as well as like, the artist and the director like trying to also maybe tell you something. So
I,
it
I
was really
think
cool.
I think that everyone's going to come up with a similar-ish
Yeah,
interpretation.
for this one.
There's only so many interpretations you could have of this film, and they all kind of work from the same template
Yeah.
of a structure. Like when it comes to her character and what this means to her, I feel like what it's representing is pretty straightforward, and
Yeah,
I
I
would find it
agree.
hard to argue otherwise.
I
But
agree.
what that all
Mm-hmm.
means, I think, is where you can then have the liberties of interpretation where you're like, well, I think because of that, this means this, right? I think we can all agree on what the symbolism of the stop motion and her relationship to it, like
Mm-hmm.
that's all pretty much like set in my
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
You could maybe come up with something different, but I really don't think so. But I really love the way the film gives you enough to go off of and doesn't leave you so high and dry that you're just sitting there so confused in the end. Like when it ended, I didn't feel any sense of like, lack of completion,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
some movies abruptly end and you're like, that was it. That doesn't happen to me honestly that much as it does to half the audience that I usually
Sure.
am around. I can say that probably happens probably 5 out of 10 times I go see a movie. I hear somebody has to exclaim in the theater, "That was it!"
This one was not that. This one felt very satisfying with the ending,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely like one of my favorite films that I've watched this year so far. I mean, I know we're ending February, but
Yeah.
um
Oh, this is, yeah. I
it's
mean, this is
definitely like
easily.
a top one for me right now. Like the stop motion is just super super cool. I love the look of.
I'd say this is probably the best film of the year so far.
I think you might be right. Like I was trying to think like
Yeah.
what other ones we've watched that have come out this year that are like, top tier, and I don't know. This one was fantastic, and yeah, the look of the stop motion creatures and stuff. Like there's definitely a few, especially at the end. Oh, there's one that is really disturbing. I mean, they're all disturbing, but
Yeah,
like one in particular that I was just like it's not okay, it is not as like if you've seen Smile, the ending is very like it kind of
it's
gave
more
me
subtle.
that, but it's more subtle. But I
Yeah,
kind of got that kind of vibe from it of
yeah.
like, so I quite liked
Yeah,
it.
and if you grew up watching Tool videos, Tool music
mm,
videos, then you're gonna kind of understand the look of the stop motion in this and
mm.
how it's incorporated into the film. And there's a lot of really great scenes, and
Yes, yeah, there is.
there's great performances. I loved it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't really knock it for much. I just
no,
would I have done things differently myself? Sure, but who wouldn't have? I have some thoughts in my mind of where else this could have went, and I would have liked to see more grotesque elements incorporated into the stop motion because of where the plot was going. I thought we'd get
mm,
more of that, more almost marionettes in a way.
mm.
But regardless, I still was very happy with what we got. We're not talking about anything specific, so I keep beating around the bush of
Yeah,
certain
this is
things that
a
I keep wanting to
spoiler
say
free.
because there's so many cool moments throughout that I would love to shine a spotlight on and be like, that was rad.
Right,
This was
yeah.
super cool. This is this. This means that to me. And I also don't want to take any credit away from the little girl who's in this. I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah.
She gave a really great performance. Just up there with the main actress here, and then the mom does really well with her limited screen time.
Yeah, I
Um,
think everyone
yeah,
did really great,
yeah,
honestly.
there wasn't a bad performance in the bunch,
No,
but
not
those
at
were just
all.
the ones that really stood out. The bitchy sister-in-law.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not in law because I don't think they're married, but regardless, are they married?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
She was good. The boyfriend was good. Everyone was great. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Great
great,
atmosphere too.
great directorial debut.
Yeah.
Definitely something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on in the
Yeah,
future,
for
and
sure.
would definitely add this to the collection. I think this is a really cool
Oh
movie,
yeah. Yeah.
and it is a limited run,
Mm.
so it probably won't be playing next to a bunch of you. But if you can't get out to it in theaters, which you should, because you
Mm-hmm.
should support stuff like this, it will be on Shudder eventually because it
Yes.
is a Shudder film.
Yeah.
So have that to look forward to. Shudder's been killing it.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
They really great give
they always get like a top 5 film of the year.
yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah,
And I
shit,
love
top
that
2, top 3 every year for me. They always have
there's
one.
yeah, there's so many cool like directorial debuts and just like smaller budget directors, indie directors that they, give opportunity to
Yeah.
and support, and I love that. I think that's awesome. So,
Yeah, and they do these really cool limited theater
yeah.
runs.
Yeah.
They did the same thing with When Evil Lurks,
Yes, yeah.
which had that same kind of limited run to it,
Mhm.
and for a very short amount of time. So your window is small,
Yes.
and the theater selection is small as well. But honestly, I mean, you saying that, it was playing at like 10 theaters near us. So we're in
there's
a
a
big
lot,
city,
yeah.
and it was everywhere.
Hopefully if you're near a bigger city,
But it
you
probably
have a
won't be
chance to
out for
see it.
long. I'll
Yeah.
say a couple weeks. Like Cobweb, like
Yeah.
When Evil Lurks. These movies, they only are in the theaters for like a week or two.
Yeah. So if
So
you're watching or listening to this review
yeah, go
when it's
tomorrow. Go
released,
today.
go today or tomorrow
Yeah,
depending on when you're watching and or listening.
yeah. So
So,
definitely let us know. Check out the trailer if you're still on the fence. But it's a thumbs up from both of us for
yeah.
sure. All right. Well, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.